Hi, welcome back. We're live again here at the GuideWell Insights Lounge. Surprise! One of the beauties of XMed is the ability to find somebody in the crowd that you want to talk to and then bring them onto your live stream. So for those of you who stuck with us and watched that great interview with Alana Schrader, thanks for hanging around. I'm happy to introduce you to Rebecca Love. She is the Director for Nursing, Entrepreneurship, and Innovation at Northeastern University. So we saw Rebecca in the crowd and we're like, we have to talk to you about nurse innovators. And so we're glad to have your perspective here. Welcome.
All right, well, thanks for having me, Jessica.
Thanks. So tell us a little bit about what's going on as far as the nurse innovator. I mean, I know like the AMA has put an emphasis on the physician innovator within the last year or so, and so now we've come to the nurse innovator. So what's going on?
So it's actually a new initiative in the country. It's focused on making nurses more innovative and also entrepreneurial. And the whole idea is that nurses are pretty much the end user of almost 95% of every healthcare product on the market, and we need to bring them into the realm of boardrooms, design centers that give them the skill sets and the tool sets to actually help innovate in healthcare.
It's fantastic. And the potential that the nurse has to impact that uptake of technology is fantastic.
Absolutely.
So the physician really looks to the nurse more or less to help bring that technology into the way that they practice.
Well, I think that the studies of you see, nurses are constantly by the bedside, and they're MacGyvering all of the...
MacGyvering, I love that.
Yes, they constantly are taking a roll of tape, making products work better for them, and on average, they're doing workarounds on a constant basis. And we're sitting there saying, workarounds in certain settings are great, but workarounds in these are showing that there's inefficiencies in the system, that nurses are actually able to make better products and better procedures so that they work better for the patient and for healthcare.
So tell me a little bit about this initiative, because you said it was just launched. So where is this coming from? Is this something that's within the university system, or is this something broader? Where is this initiative, where is this directive coming down from?
So the initiative is brand new as of a year ago, and it came from a conversation that I had with Dean Hanneran, who's the dean of our school of nursing.
Okay.
I had attended a hackathon. It was largely attended by physicians. I attended the whole weekend and realized that this was a great opportunity for nurses to get involved. Called her out of the blue, said, what do you think about hosting a hackathon for nurses? And she said, that's interesting. I'm running a summit on innovation and entrepreneurship.
Right.
Why don't you run a hackathon? And I said, well, I've been to a hackathon. I'll run one. And we launched that June 2016. And suddenly, a year later, we've run 17 events. And we basically started the conversation. How do we bring nurses from the bedside into the fold of innovation?
So talk to me a little bit about what kinds of innovations nurses are focused on, because I would imagine that that's different because of where they're sitting on the care continuum. So what kinds of things are they innovating around?
Absolutely. So most of these, or much of the devices, are actually related to the equipment that we're using by the bedside, the equipment that our patients are using in the home. An example is we had a team
I was
called...
going to say, give me an example.
Yeah, so we had a team at one of our hackathons, and they formed a new form of what we call an IV safety lock. So they've called themselves IV Safety. They've actually patented that product.
Wow.
It was a product that hadn't actually been changed since 1916 in medical device world.
Oh my goodness.
So she saw problems where her patients were bleeding out because this device didn't work well on the pediatric population, redesigned it, and actually formed a new product from that.
That's fantastic. And so, I mean, as far as, I guess, turning these ideas then into, the entrepreneurship side is the other side of your title. So how are you helping nurses become more entrepreneurial? And even if it's not, developing a business model or developing a business or bringing a product to market, just even, I guess, in their own jobs, how are you helping inspire entrepreneurial thinking within the nursing community?
That is exactly what we're trying to do. So nurses leave the bedside or the school of nursing with an excellent clinical toolbox, but they have no understanding of business knowledge. So the entire initiative that we have is to teach nurses the basics of business. So we have done 17 events. Some of them now are educational, where we're teaching nurses how to write business plans, how to understand financial statements. But what's been very interesting is how many nurses have showed up at our events and they said, you know what, maybe I'm not an entrepreneur, but I believe that I could hack myself, that I could make a new direction forward. So we've had nurses come to our events, create opportunities for themselves in their places of work, submit proposals, and have those proposals lead to their advancement either into management or director roles within their hospital that they said they would never have done if they hadn't been experienced this kind of entrepreneurship spirit that we experienced.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's fantastic. How inspiring.
Yeah,
How very inspiring.
Yeah.
So, I'm curious too to know, with all the attention that is on the physician innovator now, how do we make this, the nurse innovator, a broader movement?
Yes.
What are you guys doing to bring this outside of your university?
Yes, so actually the Institute of Medicine actually identified that nurses should be part of innovation and entrepreneurship. It should be the next direction going on. So we not only host events at our university, but we actually partner with a lot of other companies. So we've been approached by IBM to host the next hackathon because they wanted to have more nurses infiltrate into that experience. Next week, we're hosting a make-a-thon with the Ruderman Foundation and Tom, which is focused on people with disabilities. And they said, you know, we'd like to bring nurses into that fold. So outside organizations are contacting us to understand how nurses do this differently than what you would have in a conventional medical setting. So in addition to that, we start coming to events like this, we start working with groups, we start sharing newsletters on a weekly basis to tell the stories of nurses as innovators and entrepreneurs and gain a greater understanding of the world of nurses that have done and paved this pathway for us.
So I like what you said about how they ask you, you know, how nurses are doing things differently. So when a big organization like that asks you, like, how are nurses doing that differently? What do you answer? Like, what is the difference? What is the special perspective or the unique thinking that they are bringing to the innovation process?
So nurses are masters at the bedside of looking at a problem and figuring it out immediately. And the reason being is that when there is a change of status, you don't have time to wait for responses.
And they say innovation is the mother of necessity, or necessity is the mother of innovation, right?
Exactly. And so they're constantly doing that. And so what happens is the nurse's perspective is they're looking at the equipment they have on hand, they're looking at the patient they have in front of them, and they're sitting there and saying, this isn't working the way it needs to. Let me use something to make it better. And that's what we're doing. I think it's different from the perspective if you're looking at a device company. They're looking to solve the actual problem. But the truth is sometimes that problem doesn't bring in the workflow. So nurses are constantly looking at the workflow of how they're operating. And an interesting study out of the University of Pittsburgh showed that nurses, in the course of an hour, spend during the course of an hour, they're in 36 different places. They're constantly running, doing different things, getting different supplies. And so that's the focus of what we're trying to understand is how do you make nurses more efficient in their jobs by creating innovations that work the solutions for their workflow?
That's fantastic. And I think the workflow is so important because that's one of the biggest challenges with some of the innovations we see here that are so far out on the bleeding edge is how do you integrate this into the process? How do you meet the system where it's at? And really, it's the nurse on the front lines, I guess, right?
It is. And what we're saying, so I can give you an example. When I was a young nurse, I was working on the hospital floor. They rolled out with a similar situation to Vocera. We had it all around our necks. The machine was yelling at us on a constant basis. By the end of the week, we all took off the device, put it on the front desk, and the company had to send back out all of their engineers to sit there and say, why was this not working? And so the truth is we see this all of the time as nurses. Devices that are rolled out, they think that they're solving a solution for nurses. They actually create more work, and we don't use them.
Right.
So if you brought nurses in earlier into the medical device discussion, had them test this product, work this product, a lot more could be solved in those kind of solutions.
Fantastic. Well, we're excited to have you here. We're so excited to hear the perspective of a nurse and to also hear that they're actually entering this innovation conversation in a much more targeted and directed way. So welcome all of the nurses to the Innovation Fold. We're happy to have you finally in an organized way.
Much.
So thank you guys so much. Rebecca, thank you so much for your time here today. Enjoy the rest of XMed. For those of you who are watching live, we are going to be showing a few of the interviews that we conducted earlier today and also yesterday in case you missed them. Those are also available now on the YouTube channel of GuideWell. So if you were to go to YouTube, it is GuideWell MHC. Or you can just simply search GuideWell and you'll be able to find our channel and you can view all the interviews from yesterday there, as well as some of the interviews from today. We hope that you enjoy watching these interviews in the GuideWell Insights Lounge. Give us a shout out if you do. We'd love to hear from you. You can tag @GuideWell if you're on Twitter. You can also, of course, use the hashtag XMed. We love your feedback. Please be kind. We'll talk to you guys soon. And here we go. Thanks so much. We'll see you later. This is Jessica DeMassa from the GuideWell Insights Lounge at Singularity University's XMed.